All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Steve Green. I think I've met most of you, a couple of you I haven't, but I'm the editor of the Dispatch, and joining me here, co-moderating, is Sean Soper. He's been my right hand here for over 20 years and a familiar face at City Hall, and has been covering Ocean City for 20 years as well. So together we have about 45 years of experience in the news business and on the shore. The point of tonight, really grateful for you joining us, is to educate and inform the citizens of Ocean City who will be casting their votes on November 3rd, as well as anyone else who will be tuning in. And as we know, we have an active property owner base, so they'll be also checking this out. This forum will be recorded and then posted online tonight about an hour after we conclude. So the idea tonight is to, we're going to try to keep this around 2 hours, try to keep it where manageable for you all and manageable for our viewers. We did a couple in Berlin last month. It got over 3 hours, so we're shooting for shorter than that. So I'm going to not ramble on here and really just get rolling with it. We'd like to start tonight with allowing you all the opportunity to introduce yourselves. If you would, just in your introductions, please include how long you've been a resident of Ocean City, why you're running. And for this first question, we're just going to start with the way the names would appear on the ballot. And then preceding questions, we have rotated the individuals. So we'll start with Rick Meehan, if you could start, and then Peter, you're on deck.
Okay, thank you, Steve and Sean, and thank you for the opportunity this evening. My name is Rick Meehan, and I'm currently the mayor of the town of Ocean City, Maryland. And like many of you, I started coming here when I was in high school and college. I worked here all the way through high school and college. I actually moved to Ocean City and became a year-round resident in 1971 and started a business in town, and was elected to the city council in 1985. And it was a great time to be in Ocean City. Ocean City was just starting to really grow and develop, and there were a lot of new people coming to Ocean City, and I was fortunate to be in a position to represent them and to be part of the city that I really enjoyed. I live in town with my partner, Katie Durham, and my daughter, Kelly, lives in Ocean City with my two grandchildren, who most of you know, Brantley and Everly. And it's a great place to raise a family. I raised my kids here, and now my grandchildren are being raised here. And I've always been very active in the community, participated in Northside Park, coached all their teams, did all the things that all of us want to do, and we're so fortunate to be able to do in Ocean City. I was appointed mayor in 2006 when Jim Mathias left that office. I was council president at the time and went to the state legislature. I've been re-elected 6 times since then. I also served as acting city manager for a total of 17 months during 2 different time periods. So I'm very well acquainted with the government of Ocean City, and I'm very dedicated to the town of Ocean City. And I think for the same reason all of you are here tonight, I'm here because I'm committed to Ocean City. I love where I live. I love doing what I do, and I hope to continue to doing that with your support. Thank you.
Okay. Peter, and then Tony, you'll be next.
All right, thanks. I'm Peter Buas. Born and raised in this town, come from a big family. I grew up in the hospitality industry, working mainly in hotels. Myself and my 5 younger siblings all went to Worcester Preparatory School in Berlin. After there, I went off to University of Maryland, and then thereafter to University of Baltimore Law School. After I graduated from there, I really didn't hesitate to jump back to the shore pretty quickly. I came back here and I clerked for the judges of the Worcester County Circuit Court for 2 years. And after that, I moved to Williamsburg, Shockley, and Harrison, where I practice today. I'm confident now my background and ability kind of give me an opportunity to jump in and make a difference. If I was elected, thematically, I would focus on 2 major overarching goals. And 1 would be quality of life for the residents of the town, and 2 would be reinforcing Ocean City as a safe, family-friendly resort.
Okay, Tony, and then Nicholas.
Okay, thank you, Steve and Sean, for putting this on. I worked at Yum Brands, which is Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut. I worked at Yum Brands. I was in charge of franchising there. I moved here 12 years ago from Annapolis. but I've owned here since 1988. I've owned here for a long time. As I said, I've been a resident since 2008. I've been on the council for 6 years. I was elected with Councilman Matt James and Wayne Hartman. I met my wife on the Boardwalk on 9th Street in high school, and we live here at the Gateway Grand. Why I'm running, I think I want to continue to ensure that Ocean City is the cleanest and safest family beach in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicholas, and then John, you're on deck.
Please just call me Nico.
Nico.
Yeah. I moved to Ocean City 2 years ago. However, I've been a lifelong Maryland resident, with the exception of a little over 3 years where I went to the University of West Virginia, where I somehow managed to cram a 4-year degree in criminology and a minor in forensics into that 3-year period.
Cool.
Hard work isn't something that I shy away from. Like I said, I did cram a 4-year degree into 3 years, and it's no easy task. And that's something that I am fully committed to do for the city and for the residents. And I want to make sure that Ocean City is the family resort town that I always came to as a child. And I want it to continue to be that family resort town and bring back that family atmosphere that I know we all love. And I guess the other thing that I'm really passionate about that I'd like to see on the city council is transparency. My job at the city of Salisbury, working at the water department, does not permit me to have enough time to have all of these closed door meetings. So they're going to need to be in the open. If they're not in the open, I won't be able to attend them. So transparency is just something that I cannot stress enough.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go to John and then Daniel.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Sean. And appreciate the opportunity today and everything you do throughout. I mean, you guys are a key part of our community, so I appreciate the work you do all year. I'm a 25-year resident. My name's John Gehrig, first of all. I'm a 25-year resident. Moved here in 1995. Happened to move on the same street, 129th Street, where my wife's mom lived. She would visit, and we met at Mackey's. So we're now married. Obviously, she's my wife. We have 2 kids, and my father moved here. Both of her parents moved here, and now we have 3 generations who live right on the island. So, you know, this is personal for me. Ocean City is. So it's one of the few places in the world that has, I think we take it for granted because we live here, but it's one of the few places in the world that has the amenities and God-given just nature that we have. So I own a business, D3. It's an internet business. I owned that for 25 years. We're a debt-free company. And that allows me to, I've developed over these years, a couple of decades of being in business, understanding business principles and how to deal with human resources and managing people and leadership and making payroll. Shoot, Steve, you know how that is. Sometimes that's the most stressful part, right? But setting budgets and marketing and economics and supply and demand and pivoting and changing. It's the internet. It changes every day. So being able to think creatively, see trends, see around the corner, create ideas with my team. And a lot of times these ideas come from them. So it's thinking and listening and taking action when appropriate. So those are some of the skills I bring to the council. We have a diverse group of people on the city council, and I think those are my unique skills that I bring to the table. In my spare time, if you want to call it that, I'm on the board of the Ocean City Chamber of Commerce. I've been a president for 3 terms. I'm also on the board of the Ocean City Paramedic Foundation, so I appreciate the value of our public safety. And have been on other countless boards and committees as well. I've been a councilman now for 4 years. I tell you, it's just been a lot to learn and absorb. You think you're smart and you think you know things, and you got to listen. And so now I think I'm kind of in the groove a little bit. Have a much greater understanding of things I really never knew about before. I'm not a civics guy. I'm not a government guy. I think that comes out a lot in the meetings, but I'm kind of the voice of change, I think. I have a bold style. It's not for everyone. And I'm fighting, I fight for our future through creative thinking and new ideas and bold action. I'm really just tired of sitting around. So, and I'm running to help expand what makes us great and to help solve. We definitely have challenges. Those need solutions, and I'm happy to sit at the table. So I hope to earn your confidence of the public for the next 4 years. I think I'll be even better now with 4 years behind me. And I hope you vote for John Gehrig on November 3rd. Thank you.
Daniel, and then Frank, please.
How you doing, everybody? Thank you again, you guys, for hosting this event. I definitely appreciate it. My name is Daniel Hagan. I've been a resident of Ocean City about a year. My family, and going maybe back six generations, have been coming here since the early 60s, starting with my great-grandparents and on. I decided to run today because I believe that there needs to be honesty, transparency, and loyalty. And I feel like that the community needs to have better leadership on the city council and in the mayor's spot as well. And I come from Glen Burnie, Maryland, which is a very small town that, just like with Ocean City community, really tight. They're for, honesty and transparency. And that's what I hope to gain when I get in office. And as Mr. Eastman said, I definitely believe that honesty and transparency is key to making sure that all business is conducted in open form, because without having that type of, platform, how can you trust the people who have literally this town in their hands? And I'm a graduate of Glen Burnie High School, 2004. I took some government throughout high school, marketing, business marketing, a little bit in high school throughout all my 4 years there. I learned a lot. I studied debates. I studied those type of things to get me better prepared for things like this. I decided to run because I feel like I can be the voice of change and hopefully work with many others when it comes to time to do that. Finally, I would like to be the one that goes out on the boardwalk when things go and turn into hell. I'm going to be there and making sure that we can do better when certain events and other things occur. Thank you.
All right, Frank.
Hey, good evening, Steve. Good evening, Sean. Thank you to you guys in dispatch. Good evening, council members and candidates. I too have a history in Ocean City. I took my first steps here on 3rd Street in the Sand. I've worked at the Mario's. I flipped burgers at the Alaska Stand. I bussed tables in the Harrison Hall. And in 1995, I came down here, became a full-time resident to raise my daughter in a better environment that was family friendly and safe. I've got a lot of experience to bring to the city. I'm a retired business owner. I've had 2 successful dental practices. I'm a member of the American Legion. I've been a Boardwalk code enforcement officer for a few years. I've on the board of port wardens for the last 6 years. I'm on the OCDC, the Downtown Association, and I've served on multiple city task forces. And this experience, I believe, can help me hit the ground running to serve the taxpayers, the non-resident taxpayers, the businesses, and the tourists that come to Ocean City. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Now we'll go ahead and jump into our questions. So we wanted to start tonight with the topic of the pop-up rally. While it's still fresh on everyone's minds, it was just held last month. We'll just go through our topic here, and you can ask your question, and we'll get you to weigh in. And we'll start with Tony and then Frank. Here's our question. So as we all know, Ocean City was aggressive as ever this year with its stance on this event, seemingly trying to make coming to Ocean City as unpleasant of an experience as it possibly could for those intent on wreaking havoc and breaking laws. So there are a lot of new tactics put in place, including heightened towing, more arrests, and a zero tolerance approach to reckless driving, as well as some significant traffic pattern changes. So our question is, did it work in your opinion? What more should Ocean City do? So again, we'll start with Tony and then go to Frank.
Okay, thank you, Steve. 4 days in September. In June, I wrote an email to Chief Pizzaro and to legal to have it vetted. It was titled Alternate Pop-Up Plan. It included things like speed bumps, road closures, single lanes, things like that we tried this year in certain areas. We had some success this year. As I feel that on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, there was success. Saturday was terrible. Next year, some of the things I recommend, and as you know, there's a meeting this Friday to talk about this, but next year, some of the solutions is I want to test some speed bumps on Coastal Highway at 33rd, 45th, and 94th. This year, they were tested with success, as we heard last night from residents in residential areas. And it really helped in the residential areas. SHA came to a meeting and told us that they would probably let us test a couple on Coastal Highway next year. Also, I'd like to see us test some single lanes every 3 to 4 blocks along Coastal Highway so that you can still make left turns and right turns. My Saturday night plan, which was terrible, my Saturday night plan is this. I think we need to close Baltimore Avenue from 10th to 33rd Street. No vehicular traffic whatsoever. I think each hotel and condo on Baltimore Avenue should add a security person on their lot if they have a large lot. We did that here at 48th Street. It was terrible last year here at 48th Street. This year we had a full-time security working and we had no issues. I also think that all businesses and hotels should sign up for the TEAP program. I know that many along Baltimore Avenue didn't sign up. The TEAP program is the Trespass Enforcement Authorization Program. You enroll by application and the police come out and tell you where to post your signs to be part of this program. It gives police the authority to enter private property. I think those are some things we need to test next year, and I plan to present that at the meeting on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Frank, and then Daniel, you're on deck.
Okay, thanks. The Motor Vehicle Task Force is going to meet on Friday, and they're going to review the Endless Summer Cruise and the pop-up event. And they'll discuss what worked and what didn't work, and basically have a debriefing and continue their planning for 2021. I'll be at that task force meeting. I'm really interested in seeing what they have to say about, the process. From what I observed, law enforcement had control of the situation until Saturday night. And through a well-managed policing, they brought that situation under control. Following social media, I've seen many members of this 80,000 member group, the group that's without a head, are posting that because of the new tow ordinances and increased fines and impounding fees, they aren't coming back. But believe me, most will be coming back. The police did their job. The prosecutors are going to do their jobs. So we must hold the judicial branch accountable. Too often in court, a substantial fine of $1,000, $1,500 is reduced to $50 and a slap on the wrist. So we have to hold the judges accountable to carry out what our police officers and what the AGs have done. I'm looking forward to hearing recommendations from the Motor Vehicle Task Force and the legislation that our Delegate Hartman and Senator Carosa plan on submitting in Annapolis this year to further diminish the impact of this unruly crowd on our town of Ocean City. Thank you.
Daniel, and then we'll go to John.
Well, as many on here know, that my stance on it was two different ways. There was a lot of crime, there was a lot of destruction, but I also saw a lot of people getting pulled over for no reason. Also, a couple of videos that were disturbing of, there's a way of handling, maybe some training on how to handle people, because as everyone knows, on a greater national scale, it only takes one incident and cities get looted, get burned down. Ocean City can't handle that. And as I said last night, is that we need to have transparency. We need to have a plan. Now that we know these type of crowd can come down here, we got to weed out the bad ones and keep the car enthusiasts here. Because if we kick those out, then we're going to kick all the other ones out. I believe that there was criminals. I believe that laws were broken. But if a business or a government cannot price gouge then no government or local government should be able to enforce $3,000 to $4,000 fines to just come out with that were original, like the police commissioners or the police spokeswoman said. They were usually $80 fines, and they could turn into $500 fines, and some of them go up to $2,000 or $3,000. I disagree with that. I understand imposing, I think, stricter, maybe doing community services. We could utilize that, cleaning up the beach. We could say, hey, look, well, you caused this damage, you caused this trash, you're gonna go pick it up. I believe that, providing that would do that. Now, I believe in strict enforcement. I stand behind the police, and I've always stand behind the police. And they had a hard job, and they worked long hours. But I believe that we need to be able to get them trained to prepare to how to handle situations like this without having to physically do that as a last resort. Because like I said, I saw there was a couple videos where damaged property happened, a kid got tackled. I think things like that are very important because, like everyone knows, it only takes one bad incident and everything goes right to hell. It's a national thing. We need to focus on how we can get better training for the officers and protect them so at the end of the day and the end of the evening, they can go home to their families, because that's what's important, the community and them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and then we'll have Rick, please.
Yeah, first of all, all of our public safety just did an unbelievable job. It's obviously the police, but the firefighters and paramedics. It's almost an unfair fight, if you want to call it that, but it did an unbelievable job. And I will say, the mayor, the council, our legislators for the state, everybody worked hard on this throughout the year, going to the state to get the legislation. This was the second year we tried to get that done, and mayor led a team up there that, with some help, really, that was an impressive showing in Annapolis, and allowed us to get some stricter enforcement from the state. And the reaction from some of these, from the Senate committee where I was, it was a real reaction from these people. They don't understand what it was like, and now they're starting to get a taste of it in other areas of Maryland. So I think we keep putting pressure on the state. It's really not pressure. It's just, hey, this is the reality. We need more of your help. And now they're starting to see it in areas like Route 70 and throughout the state where we're starting to see similar bad behavior. Our local ordinances too have had some impact, and the ideas that came out of the motor vehicle task force and our police chief and the city council, the tow ordinance, and some other things with the traffic patterns and those things that we saw happen. We definitely landed some blows. We didn't get knocked out this year, but we certainly didn't win a fight or anything. So, some things worked. They're going to be ready next year for that. They, retaliated a little towards the end of the weekend. So we're going to need to continue to adjust and almost think like an FBI profiler here on, what they're thinking so that we can adjust accordingly. And there's some things, I've shared some emails, and with the traffic rerouting, obviously they're going to be looking for U-turns. They'll have their custom Google Maps, in parking lots, and being able to, figure things out. We just have to be ready for that. We also may need to, do what nightclubs do, and maybe, only a certain number of people can be in town, and they just sit there and wait until one person leaves, one person exits. I know it's not that simple, but those are some thoughts. And of course, this will be a common theme for me. Throughout the night, a lot of our problems are, I believe, just because, or can be solved through economic development and sales. We're going to have an idea coming before Tourism Commission, possibly in November, that will have a real impact on this event. I'm extremely excited about that. I would love to say something. It's not like I don't want to, but it's not a done deal by any means. So, I think we need to look at how we can help the hotels make money alternatively, and constrict the inventory and make the remaining inventory, even more expensive. Let's make it harder and more expensive for the people that cause us pain make it harder for them to come here. And we have to fill up the city with customers that treat us with respect and don't require our police officers to put on body armor and riot gear. So we'll be talking about economic development throughout the night. Thank you.
Okay. Rick and then Nico.
Thank you, Steve. You know, this year, I think we did see some results of a lot of the hard work that was John referenced that has gone into this the last 3 years. I formed the Motor Vehicle Task Force, and with the support of the council, we went to the state legislature to get legislation passed so that we could create a special event zone, similar to what a work zone would be, to increase fines and lower speed limits. It was really done to address a number of things. It was done to address the cruising events that we had seen get a little bit out of line as well, particularly in the spring 2 years ago. And it was also then to address the pop-up event. And when we formed the task force, we had members and participants in the cruising event on the task force, as well as the promoter. And they worked with us. They went to Annapolis with us because they wanted us to improve the events. And they helped us. And really, the special event zone and their collaboration with the mayor and council really toned down those cruising events. And I think they've come a long way to really working with us. You know, our mantra in Ocean City is that we invite everybody to come here. All we ask is that they obey our laws and they be courteous to others. This wasn't what we were seeing from those that attended the pop-up rally the last few years. I think that the actions taken by the Ocean City Police Department this year really did set the tone. I spent Saturday night till Sunday morning at 5 a.m. up in the EOC watching what was going on and watching all the screens as they were moving to different places to try to address the problems. And the actions we took really deterred an awful lot of the problems on Coastal Highway. In fact, by Saturday, a lot of those had stopped. The problem then became the crowds, which is now something else we need to address. But I think the Ocean City Police Department and all the allied agencies that worked with us did a terrific job. We have a follow-up meeting of the Motor Vehicle Task Force this Friday, and there's representatives from the governor's office that will be here. The Secretary of the Department of Transportation, Greg Slater, will be here. They're all here to work with us and our OCPD and allied agencies. You know, the goal is to discourage those who want to come here for all the wrong reasons from coming. You know, remember, this event displaced Sunfest. We moved Sunfest, which is an event that attracts 250,000 people. But the people that come for this pop-up rally still outnumbered them. So we're going to have to go a long way to work towards bringing back Sunfest this weekend possibly and adding some other events. But it's a challenge. It's going to remain a challenge. You know, the administrators of the website for this event actually took down the site. They were discouraged by some of the activities that they saw, that they witnessed. And I've actually had some conversations with one in particular administrator, and hopefully someday they agree we need to move out the bad guys, and hopefully some way we can work with them in the future, just like we did the cruising events. But we've got a long way to go, and we've got a lot of work to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Nico, and then we go to Peter, please.
All right, so I think what we saw over the pop-up rally weekend was something that didn't work. Personally, I don't like the pop-up rally. I like cars, but I don't like when people disrespect my town, and that's not something I want to see come here anymore. I have a few different ways that I think that we can address this problem from before it starts. One of which Frank mentioned is the 80,000 people in the Facebook group. That's something that needs to stop. We need to report them for cyberbullying and make sure that people are not posting videos of themselves doing illegal acts without being punished. Because when people see crime online, they might not even know that it's possible to come here and do these things. So they're over in Baltimore or Annapolis or another part of the state, or even from Pennsylvania or Virginia. And they're coming here with bad intentions from the beginning. And another thing that I would like to see for next year is, if we're going to punish people, I think a much better punishment is community service. Anybody can pay a fine, but it takes a lot of work to pick up trash on the side of the road early in the morning. So I just feel like if we do that, it's going to discourage some people from coming next year.
All right, Peter?
Certainly. I was right down on 7th Street, right where I live, 7th in Baltimore, and it was chaos down there. With that being said, there's just a massive appreciation for OCPD and the Sheriff Department, all the allied agencies, because they endured so much recklessness, and these guys were verbally attacking them, throwing objects at the car. A lot of those cars were damaged that weekend. And it was a massive task to keep this town safe that weekend. Despite all that, the men and women of OCPD really worked around the clock. And more than that, I was equally as impressed with public services. I walked out of my house Monday morning and everything was clean. It was incredible. They really got to work and got the job done. But did it work? I want to recognize that obviously there's still a massive issue, but there are a couple positives along the way. I mean, police made over 250 arrests, towed 350 cars. They were out there using the tools of the new reckless driving bill to really do what they can to get these guys off the streets. There is still obviously a lot of work to be done. And there's going to be work to do until a family coming down that weekend is safe and is able to have a good time, because they still aren't able to have a good time that weekend. What more can be done? One of the major issues I saw from my front porch downtown is that you would have traffic blocks from kids blocking the street, and the OCPD and the sheriff's office had a tough time getting from one hotspot to another hotspot. Not an easy problem to solve, especially when you're trying to get vehicles down 30 blocks from 28th Street to 6th Street. So building off of Tony's idea, which is exactly where I was going with this, is that I too think we should shut down Baltimore Avenue. Now, I would extend that from North Division Street all the way to 33rd. And what I would like to see happen is instead turn Philadelphia Avenue into two-way traffic. That way OCPD, emergency services can get from point A to point B quickly. The second thing I'd like to see happen is any ordinances that were violated resulting in a fine. I want to see these collected to their fullest. That's all I got.
Okay, sticking with the crime theme for just a minute. The next topic will deal with the crime wave in June. June was once again a major challenge for law enforcement in Ocean City. 15 guns confiscated in 9 days. It was clearly a dangerous time. Police Chief Ross Pizzurro said a key point from his perspective is ensuring the police have the necessary support. He told the mayor and council in June, there has to be changes. It can't be on the backs of law enforcement. It's a holistic effort. Question is, what do you think Ocean City should be working on this offseason to prevent the crime wave of last June from occurring again in 2021? And we're going to start with Frank, and Daniel, you're on deck.
Thank you. You're muted, Frank.
Frank, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Okay, in June, all the elements aligned to create the proverbial perfect storm. We were still mostly locked down from COVID. No bars were open to absorb these young adults that came to town. Unemployed people had an extra $600 added to their regular unemployment paychecks. That's probably more than they made any week in their life. There were no J1s in town, so their rooms were unused and rentals were $50 a night through June to these folks that wanted to come into town. So they came to Ocean City. They came to the Boardwalk, was the only place for them to hang out, and we know that didn't end well. Unless we see large spikes in COVID, I don't think the same scenario is going to repeat itself next June. But we will still have June weeks. So we have to repurpose June. This goes to the Economic Development Director and the Sports Tourism. We have to sell Ocean City. We have to sell June. We have to pack June with events and gradually squeeze out high school graduates and the criminals that come down here to prey on them. We've got to fill Ocean City with families. As far as handling next year, I know the police are working on this as we speak tonight. I know they're going to do a great job. Some people have asked, where were the police that we had in September? Why weren't they there in June? Well, they weren't there in June because they were out working in Dorchester County and Somerset County and Wycomico County. We didn't call on them to come in here in June. We had 107 police officers on duty, and they did a heck of a good job. They can't be everywhere at once on the boardwalk, and maybe we can repeat sort of some of the things we did during College Takeover Week a few years ago and during the troubled times. Have officers in those nice day-glow green vests every block on the boardwalk. That's the best I can offer at this point. Thank you.
Okay, Daniel, you're on deck. You're up next. John, you're on deck.
So for that answer, I totally, I was up there. I created an email, futureofocmaryland@gmail.com for the residents and tourists. I had a massive response on it. I did a 2-part video on my YouTube channel, Extreme Views 9786. It clearly shows that I was up on that boardwalk when a crowd that got bigger and bigger was literally coming down the boardwalk. Families were behind me running. Okay. And when the police or the public safety officers try to get, they overpower them, 150 people to 2. And their lives were in danger. Obviously the horses were in danger because there's videos of that. And these people, as I said before, these people do not care about ordinances. They are doing crime. They don't care about anything. And everyone says that, we had the officers were in other places. I totally respect that. But the thing is that when the police are outnumbered, it's hard for them to do anything. And we got to be sure that they are protected too. And like they are out over there in the Monte Carlo parking lot, jumping on cars and everything. It was the same crowd that went out and did the same thing on 8th Avenue. And nobody, the hands were tied and nobody said anything. And tourists and people are saying, well, I've reached out to the city council. I've reached out to the governor. I've reached out to the mayor. Nobody did anything. And that's the type of hell I'm talking about. I'm going to go to battle for this community. I'm going to go up there when that type of stuff is taking place. We need to figure out a plan that's going to be executed and not be afraid, because just like all around the country, if we back down, they're going to come down here and they're going to burn it down. And they have proven that they don't care. And it's not anybody, unless the National Guard comes down here and military orders down here, they're not going to stop coming down here no matter what we do. The community in this city cannot handle the hell that these people bring. And no matter how many officers are in there, their lives are going to be in danger because of these people. They have shown they do not have any care for anybody's life or anybody's property. These people do not care. They have proven it. Baltimore City is a prime example of what they can do. We do not want Ocean City to be a bunch of abandoned homes and businesses. This is a family community. Families deserve better. The voters deserve better. And we do not need to be putting officers in lives. We need to have a more aggressive plan to handle the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. John, you're up. Nico, you're on deck.
June was, this is probably the worst June I can remember. And we've had bad Junes. And actually last year seemed to be, felt better. Actually, I thought maybe we were turning a corner. And whatever the reason was, and yeah, there probably was a perfect storm this time, but we can't assume that goes away. I mean, you can also assume that the bad guys discovered Ocean City. So we have to assume they're coming back. And we can't enforce our way out of it. It's basically what you led with, Sean. That's dealing with the symptoms and not really the problem. And, the problem, some people will say it's the seniors, but it's not really the seniors. I want to use this analogy because, and some of you have heard it before, but, I was a senior and I graduated high school and came here and acted like a fool. But I didn't get arrested and thrown in jail or, have guns confiscated out of my car. So most of the seniors are just normal people like me. And now I'm here living in Ocean City with my family and I have a business and I hire employees and I'm a councilman and involved in the community. And that started with me being a senior having fun in Ocean City and wanting to keep coming back as I grew up. You know, you have people who prey on these seniors, and I compared it to, you know, we had this pure, innocent, it's like a plane full of gazelles running, hopping around, having fun and prancing around, and then a lion stumbled upon us and got some easy meat and went back and told all the other lions, and now we have a bunch of lions in our plane. And so and this is in June, but it could certainly spread. It hasn't. I mean, we've dealt with other issues at other times of the year well with through enforcement. But we have to deal with the lions and what they prey on. And, you know, part of the solution here, I'm going right back to it. Frank touched on it. I mean, you know what I've been saying for the last 4 years on council, but this goes back to when I was president of the chamber the first time, 12 years ago, probably. We have to sell. We have to sell our way out of it. And sales isn't sitting at a chair. Sales is out in the streets. And I offered an idea last night at the council meeting. I'll say it again here. My family, we travel. Our big vacation is in June when the kids get out of school. We pick them up from school, throw the bags in the back of the car, and we're off. And it's like Christmas. The whole month and middle of May through June is just countdown to vacation. And we're built for that. And, you know, being 3 hours away from 50 million people, we're built for the schools out celebration spot. And I think we need to go sell that. We need to speak with the school systems and do school assemblies and school boards and really open the city up and welcome K through 12, not just 12, and fill this city up with second and third graders and sixth graders and kindergartners and 10th graders. And, you know, we fill it up and we get hotels to sponsor schools, and we have banners, and we have, you know, movies on the beach, and we have repurpose our family beach Olympics and make it competitions with other schools. And then we make kids tell their parents and put pressure on their parents. Hey, Tommy's going to the beach. Tommy's going to Ocean City. And so is Jimmy. We have to go to the beach, Mom. You know, and they come here for 3-4 days or longer. So, but we can begin the process of filling our hotels with those guests, not just 12th graders, but 13 grades of school. And, you know, Pennsylvania, they get out of school middle of May. So from middle of May through the third week of June, we can be filling our city with families. But it takes sales to do that. And it takes a salesperson to do the sales, because we don't have that position. I mean, we have sales, but that's for the convention center, and they're full. So we need a salesperson to go press the flesh, strike these deals, and work with the hotels. And if a hotel is going to be part of this program, then we'll be matchmakers for them, and we'll fill them up. Sports is certainly part of it. That's a big tournament time, and that can certainly be part of it too. You know, and even if we did fill it up, the gang members aren't going to go away. You know, they're here to hook up with girls. They're here to sell their drugs and steal and terrorize. You know, they're not going to go away the first year or two. So there will be a transition period where we'll have families on the boardwalk with gangs. So we're going to have enforcement measures. We may need to close the boardwalk. I mean, a lot of the staff members who work on the boardwalk, who are employees, people we know, their daughters and sons, were terrified, you know, when they got off of work. So we may have to close the boardwalk early. The bad guys won't listen, but at least the good guys will. And then we can keep our eyes on them in one place without having any innocent people. So anyway, I'll keep it at that. Economic development's our way out of it for sure. To do that, we need sales. We can beat June. We can beat it. We have the market and a location. We're made for this. We just have to go attack it.
Thank you, John. Nico, you're up. Tony, you're on deck.
So June crime, I really hope, was an anomaly that we had this year that had a lot to do with coronavirus, government checks, and a pent-up energy from being locked up in houses for so long. But I always like to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. What we saw in June, that's what really prompted me to run for city councilman. I know that I can make a difference in this area. with my degree in criminology, I think I learned a lot in school that I could apply to Ocean City and make our town a lot safer. Ocean City, south of 32nd Street, has been declared an economic opportunity zone. And that needs to be, people need to be held accountable for that. This issue is a lot bigger than just June. What's occurring is that there's vacant properties, there's trash on the ground, there's loud music in June. These are the type of things, these small crimes, unattended houses. This is when people think that they can take advantage of our city and hurt us, for lack of a better term. So what I would like to see is this, for us to implement broken windows theory, much like Rudy Giuliani did in New York City, which was continued by Mike Bloomberg and unfortunately totally disregarded by the current mayor, Bill de Blasio. So I think that if we did that, it would go a long ways to making June a place for families and make this the town that I know we all want to live in.
Thank you, Nico. Tony, you're up. Peter, you're on deck.
Thank you, Sean. I also support the long-term repurposing of June, you know, with a new strong event, with our new marketing VP. I mean, I was on the strategic plan group with John and Jenny and Susan Childs in 2017. We talk about it all the time. We kind of talked through this whole thing and presented a plan for this that's finally coming to fruition. But until that happens, I have a very view that's not supported by many people, and that's really I really think we need to test a curfew on the boardwalk after 11 p.m. in the 4 weeks of June. Thanks.
Thank you, Tony. Peter, you're up. Rick, you're on deck.
The first thing that I think we should recognize is that this is not a new phenomenon. This June crime has been building for years. And of course, this year is exceptional due to COVID and some federal assistance and just general unrest. But in that spirit, I think it's equally important that we recognize that this problem is not going to get solved overnight. We're going to have to make incremental changes over the next couple of years to actually fully get this under control. And this building behavior is threatening the viability of the visitors we actually want to bring to this town. I think we need to improve in a couple areas. The first would be presence. I really think we need to amplify our presence downtown, especially on the boardwalk. This presence includes police officers, yes. But I think it also includes public safety and public works. We need to make sure we're giving all three groups the tools they need for success. An interesting example of this is a couple months ago, OCBD presented a request for a utility vehicle that would be used on the beach. It's actually a really cool looking utility vehicle, but the argument is they can get from point A to point B quickly. That was denied for budget concerns, which I can certainly appreciate. I think we should have approved that. And frankly, I think we should add a couple more. What I would like to see happen downtown when I'm talking about presence is OCPD, but really also public safety on the street serving three main purposes. One, keeping an eye on the community, making calls when there's an issue. Two, making sure this community stays clean, especially downtown. And three, downtown is a great spot for our tourists to come and visit, answer any questions, talk to public safety officer, directions, attractions, all that kind of stuff. They serve three specific assets. In addition, I want to see an infusion of full-time residents, especially downtown. I think we need to figure out how to incentivize primary home ownership. And more than that, I think we can also figure out a way to incentivize year-round tenancy. I don't think it has to be home ownership. When people live in the area full-time, they take care of the community. They make calls when they're the issue. They watch out for their neighbor. That's the type of stuff we need to be encouraging. Also, I think we need to sell June. I think we need to get someone on the staff that sells to the events, that brings the people we want into June and fill it with the right people. And then naturally, the people we don't want here aren't going to come anymore because it's a family-friendly sort of environment that they don't have fun in.
Thank you, Peter. Rick, you're up, sir. You're muted, Rick.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. I agree with a lot of what's been said by everybody that has spoken before I did. One thing we need to remember is because of COVID, we lost all of our events. We lost the Maryland State Firemen's Association convention. We lost the MML convention. We lost our beach soccer tournament. We lost the air show. We lost the Ravens Beach Bash. We lost all of those events. And that is one of the reasons that there were so many rooms. That, and on top of the fact that due to COVID, many of our visitors that normally would come decided not to travel. And that created that vacuum. And that was part of the problem. So hopefully, as we turn this corner, and hopefully we all do, we're going to get those events back. And that in itself will make a huge difference. But you're right. Everybody's right. We have to continue to look for those type of events, expand some of those events, the sporting events, particularly that time of year. And it doesn't have to just be here. If you look at all the availability of fields we have, I know we're talking about building a sports complex, which I certainly hope we do. And I hope we work with the county and do it right. But if you just go over to West Ocean City and you look at all the soccer fields that are beautiful fields behind the Baptist Church, if you look at Northside Park, if you look at the other schools, fields in Worcester County, we have the ability now to host those type of tournaments. And that's what we should be looking at, because those are the great types of business, because families come with their kids that are on the team, and it multiplies the number of visitors. So, I hope we really do concentrate on that. I do want to say something about the enforcement. It's a really difficult time, not just because of COVID, but because of what was happening everywhere around the country. And unfortunately, the world around us has changed. And Ocean City is not immune to all those changes. But what I can tell you, contrary to what I have heard, is Ocean City, OCPD never stood down. OCPD stood strong. And they prevented some of those problems that we all saw from expanding and becoming the same type of problems you saw in other areas. We didn't have those type of problems. We always have to be cognizant that could happen, but it didn't happen here in Ocean City. And I think Ocean City Police Department should be recognized for that. We're going to have a good plan in place. We can't take for granted that just because some things are going to return to normal, that a number of these individuals are not going to return. And we have to be prepared for it. Public safety should be our number one priority always. We want people to feel confident when they come to Ocean City. We want to make sure that when they come here, they feel safe and they feel comfortable to go out and about. We have a big job ahead of us. We have a challenge. That's what we're going to have to concentrate on the rest of this winter.
All right, thank you, everyone. So we'd like to stick with the Ocean City Police Department. As a matter of fact, of the last month, the Ocean City Mayor and Council authorized the hiring of 10 new police officers for 2021. So we've talked a lot about crime. We're kind of really just talking, this is more of a budget issue that we wanted to get your opinions on. So last week, the council talked about how to fund this new expenditure, which would be about $1.2 million a year for 10 new police officers, including, uniforms and all the core requirements that come with it. Councilman Tony DeLuca pitched a concept last week to raise the room tax by 0.5% to perhaps fund this expenditure. It was also suggested at another meeting that maybe a property tax increase might be needed. We'd like to get your opinion on, do you support growing the police force, and what are your thoughts on how to fund these new officers? And this one, we'll start with Nico and then Peter, please.
Okay, I just want to start off that nobody's a bigger fan than the police, and especially the Ocean City Police. They do such a great job. I know we approved the 10 new police officers in town, but what I want to make sure that we do is we take this as a case-by-case basis, approving one officer at a time. I don't want to expand the police force beyond necessary levels and cause the city undue burden on the budget because of that. And I'd just like to bring up that there's really no correlation between the number of police and the rate of crime, or how much you pay police and the crime that you see in a given area. If that were true, you would see places like New York and DC and Baltimore and Detroit with some of the lowest crime rates in the world, and we don't. It's really simple. like I've said before, broken windows theory is where we have to start moving towards. We have to enforce small infractions and make sure that small infractions do not turn into large infractions. And I think we can do this with the current level of policing, but I'm not opposed to increasing the police force. If we can get a study done to show the need for an increase in policing, and and as far as increasing taxes and room rates, I think that's a mistake. That's just going to push out more residents who are on fixed incomes, and that's not going to help any, because then we're going to have more vacant buildings, and there's going to be less people holding criminals accountable when they don't report crime. So I just can't get behind a room tax increase or a property tax increase.
Okay. Peter, and then Rick, you're on deck on this one.
Certainly. I absolutely support adding more full-time officers. I have some concerns, obviously where the money's coming from, but also too what effect it has on the supporting staff. I suppose I support adding staff to in general to those CPD, but whether 10 new officers is the answer is an interesting question, because there's other supporting issues that come along with it: dispatchers, other staff, equipment. I also want to make sure we don't stop focusing on the summer officer program. I think that's vital to our success. And actually, I think adding full-time officers will help with the success of that program. It'll add some more stability. Also, we got to make sure we're paying attention to public safety and all the other areas as well. The phrase 10 new officers sounds great, but we got to make sure we have the infrastructure behind it for those officers to be successful. As for how to pay for it, that's an evolving question. I'm not sure room tax is the answer. We just raised it. It might be premature. Obviously one answer, and this has been brought up before, is, I mean, if we figure out a way to get sales up, naturally more money is going to come in. I'd like to see a budget analysis get done. I'd also like to see the staff look at some grants, state and federal. I know they have grants for full-time firefighters. There might be something applicable to police department as well.
Rick, and then we'll move to Daniel.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I asked that the hiring of the 10 new police officers be placed on the agenda. It had been discussed earlier in the season, and I thought it was time to address it, because if we're going to take action, we need to begin to do it now in order to get officers into the academy to be available for next summer. One of the reasons that it's so important, and Peter's right, the seasonal program is vital to the Ocean City Police Department. But what we've seen, because of the change in the way people look at law enforcement and probably a number of other circumstances, the number of seasonal officers we've been able to hire has been reduced dramatically. We used to hire approximately 90 to 100 seasonal police officers. Last year we had 46. And really that's about what the average has been the last couple of years. And I know that we're continually doing everything we can to reach out and find new applicants for the seasonal police force. When you look at that, then you look at the number of year-round officers, I thought it became apparent that we couldn't afford not to hire them, that it's time to add to the police force. Also realized we already have 5 vacancies that we're filling from retirements and lateral transfers, that we weren't going to be able to hire all 10 at one time. And it was discussed at the council level that we bring in 5 this year, 5 in January, and add 5 to the class, which would be in next year's budget in July. We also looked at the fact that we're budgeted for 80 seasonal police officers. Well, if we're only going to be able to hire 50, then that funding should be reallocated towards the year-round officers. And that's about $250,000, or about half the cost of what 5 officers would be. We're also looking at grants, great suggestion, because that's something that was discussed, and other ways to fund that. But when you look at the issues we just talked about, and you looked at how important our image is, how important safety is, it just doesn't seem that the cost just is one of those things we're going to have to figure out how to handle, because it's imperative that we return to our core values. And that means, and we talked about this at the police commission meeting last week, starting right out in the beginning of June this year, beginning of the summer this year, enforcing all the ordinances in town, all the ordinances on the boardwalk. June threw us off track this year, but it's time. for smoking, dogs on a boardwalk when they're not supposed to be, bike ride, everything, because it just accumulates. And people look at that as lawlessness. And what we have to do is we have to set the tone in the beginning of the summer, which will assist our police officers and which they support. So I support hiring the new officers. I support doing it incrementally over the next year. And I think it's an asset that we cannot afford not to have.
Thank you very much. Well, Daniel, and then move to John.
Yes, well, I guess I am opposed to the room tax because taxes, they hurt a community, they hurt cities, they hurt everyone. I think maybe reducing the advertising budget dramatically, taking the money that's the city saves and, giving it and investing in the police department, new tools, I mean, all across the board, dispatchers, new vehicles, everything. I mean, every day technology changes, and the police and the fire department are always the last ones to get anything from when there's money allocated down. So I believe that if we need to focus on being able to provide all those resources so that when we hire new officers, they are able to have that as well. Training, that costs money, tactics, everything that a police officer needs to know, needs to be, there. And what I find is that raising taxes doesn't do anything. Also, having more police officers doesn't do anything. If they are not equipped, if the current ones are not better equipped with better vehicles, better technology, then hiring new ones isn't going to do anything. We need to have the equipment, the technology, and also, like I said before, no increase in taxes. Only thing we need to do is reduce the advertising budget. That money, one, will give back to the businesses, and then that money that Ocean City saves could be put into the budget to better help the police department and the fire department for better vehicles and better technology to help them serve the community and protect us all from any incidents as we saw this year. Thank you.
All right, Daniel, John, and then Frank.
Okay. Yeah, the vote to hire the new officers was unanimous, which means by default I voted to support it. I was very concerned. We approved it without knowing how to pay for it. So we followed that up though with a marathon work session. I thought it was one of our better meetings actually, and we workshopped how to do it. As the mayor mentioned, what looked like about $1.25 million a year is really about $250,000 in this fiscal year, in FY21, which ends in July or June 30. The full bill will be due in 22, but we have some time. And as far as this year, how to pay for it, room tax and grants. Look, every idea is worth discussing. We don't have control over those items. Both of those items, doesn't mean we don't explore them, but both of them involve other parties that may or may not, may go nowhere, let's put it that way. So we're going to look at Plan B, and Plan B, frankly, is fund balance, at least for this year, for sure. And a fund balance, we grew it in 20. So it increased by $2 million. So we have the money there. The fund balance has grown. We can fund the 5 officers for this year that we're projecting. We also have our finance director told us that we're going to be able to refinance some bonds, not extend the term, but just strictly lower the interest rate. And that's going to range based on some state laws with. It might be federal laws. Anyway, based on the tax situation, that would raise anywhere from $900,000 to $1.2 million. There'll be revenue there, savings for us that we can apply to public safety. And we got to remember here that this is just the police department. We have another side of public safety. We have public works. We have departments who are always asking for more. So we have to keep that in mind. And I'm going right back to it again. We have to sell our way out of our problems. And just like any business would do, you want something, you got to go make money to make it happen. Well, that's what we do in our personal lives. It's what businesses do, and that's what we need to do. We have events in Ocean City, one event. We have for that one specific event. will yield $2.4 million in tax revenue to the city. That's the power of event. So we have dozens of other events around the $1 million range. So if we can sell well, then we'll make so much money that we'll have the cleanest, safest area in the country. We have to concentrate on sales.
All right. Frank and then Tony.
Hey,
Yes.
I am totally in favor of growing the police force. And this growth is much needed in Ocean City. The chief has been requesting additional officers since he arrived in 2013. Last week, Ocean City and our wonderful budget director found the funding for the initial 10 officers. And I think Tony DeLuca joked that it was going to cost Chief Bizarro $7. I'm not sure, but I think that's what he said. Why more officers? We can't attract seasonals in today's environment. In 7 years, the applications for seasonal officers have dropped from 646 to 158 this year. We had 45 seasonals this year, and we had 71 PSAs or public service assistants. So those PSAs are great. They're the eyes and ears of the police force. They can deal with the ordinances for dogs, for bikes, for smoking, for vaping, and for parking, and they free our officers to do other things that are much more vital. You know, we also have to be prepared to lose the seasonal officer program. Right now in Annapolis, we just had a meeting last week, the Judicial Committee. There are 18 bills to consider how to reimagine policing. So we can only imagine what the state of law enforcement will be come April after they adjourn. So those 10 new hires will be funded in 2 separate fiscal years, like has been said. We'll have 5 hired in fiscal 2021 and 5 to go in the academy in July in fiscal 2022. Now, the paying of these officers may require raising the room tax 1/2 or 1%. I think that's totally appropriate, but to go from 5% to go above 5%, we need legislative approval in Annapolis. So our delegate and our senator have to start writing bills right now to submit so we can get that increase. Also, having additional officers increases the quality of life and overall morale of our police department. Right now, they work nonstop from April through October, and they do all their training in the winter. And it's very hard to get time off for life events like weddings and funerals and graduations and other events. So it's really important to increase the police department. Now, to answer Mr. Eastman, the study has been done. It was said we do need 30 additional police officers. And also in answer to Mr. Eastman, room taxes do not push out locals. Room taxes are put on to tourists, and the locals are not affected by that. And in answer to another question, nobody should reduce the advertising budget for Ocean City. That has to stay strong. We still need that. Even with our economic development director, we need a good advertising budget. Thank you.
$7 million.
Pardon?
I mean, it's in the millions. It used to be 600,000. Now it's in the millions.
Okay, but it's definitely not $7 million, but let's go ahead and go to Tony.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, safety is a top priority, and I certainly support the hiring of the 10 new full-time officers. We talked, and as John mentioned, it was a unanimous decision by everyone on the council. And I think as we discussed last week, the timing of when those 10 will be hired really helps us in terms of the dollars that we need. I know, Steve, you mentioned $1.2 million. It's really not going to end up being $1.2 million. It just keeps reducing and reducing and reducing based on availability and based on filling those positions. I also feel that room tax at 0.5%. I mean, we said 1% in 2017. I keep referring to the strategic plan meeting that we had. We said 1%, then we only took 0.5. Even at another 0.5, we are still equal to or lower than every other beach community, even with John's new chart last night. We're equal to or less than every other community. I feel very strongly about us adding seasonal officers, more seasonal officers and more PSAs, public safety officers, and more reserved officers, the retired officers that we hire. I think we really need to attack those programs. I'm not convinced that we can't go after it. I mean, we said that, you know, they make less than Walmart employees. We got to look at increasing the hourly rate. We have to look at a possible name change. We have to look at housing. We have to attack it through social media and go after it. I think when you say you can't hire them, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think we can hire more. There's a great programs. I think that they set the pace. Seasonals are out there setting the pace. You know, when they're writing citations for cigarettes, for dogs, for litter, for bikes, it kind of sets the pace for behavior and change on the boardwalk. And we just heard last night that we will be reviewing monthly these results on Hiram every single month after the police commission notes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we're running a little long. I'm going to pivot here. That's the word of 2020, right? To pivot. So we are going to, I'm going to skip a topic that we wanted to and combine two topics that we wanted to talk to you about, which is sports tourism and economic development, the new economic development position. So I'm going to merge these two topics, and they're intertwined, so I think it will make sense. So on the topic here is some in the business community and at least a couple council members have been outspoken on the need to diversify tourism in Ocean City, including catering efforts to sports tourism. Throughout much of the last year, the Mayor and Council unanimously agreed to create a new economic development and tourism director position to shepherd the resort through this transition and rebranding effort. As we understand it, the individual would be a salesperson for the town to bring in new groups to Ocean City. As we understand it, the job description is being created and the job opening is currently being advertised. So we want to get your all's opinions on this. Many of you have touched on it already. Do you support the concept of creating this new position within OC's government, as well as the efforts to become more of a focus on sports tourism for our market? We'll start with Peter and then go to Rick, please.
Very good. We're obviously still waiting for a proposed job description for that contemplated role, but I absolutely support hiring an economic director. I do think economic director is a bit of a misnomer because really, I know other candidates have harped on this at length in the past. We want a salesperson, someone that visits trade shows and goes out and sells Ocean City and brings in the type of customer we want. We don't really have anyone that does this right now. We've got a convention center event coordinator and a group and travel coordinator, but no one that really works on the ground traveling to places to sell the amenities of the town. If we're going to turn around these June issues, then this sort of marketing salesperson is the right step. As far as economic development goes, in my mind, those issues involve zoning, taxes, and the like. We have OCDC that works on that, and the county has an impressive economic director that partners with HMRA and the Chamber of Commerce. So we should expand our relationship there and give OCDC any tools they need on the zoning and economic development side. So yes, to be clear, absolutely I support the addition of a new position that's a salesperson. But that's also just the first step. Eventually, I would advocate for a second hire and sort of consolidate the sales role, communications role, and current tourism director's role under a tourism department that a second person would sort of head up. And the idea with that would be someone that would set goals for the department, create a marketing plan for the town, and really just kind of bring it full circle. And as far as sports tourism goes, I think it's been identified as a growth area for the town. And it absolutely fits the sort of clientele that we're looking for and people we want to bring in here. Family with kids that are active. And we're already working on the infrastructure to sort of fill that active role. And like the mayor said, Ocean City already has sports complexes that are utilized. So sure, we'd like to get another one, but we can sell the ones we got. And the type of people the sports tourism brings in are the people that bring in money. And they're the kind of people that we want to spend money in our hotels and our restaurants. That's my position on this salesperson.
Okay, thank you. Rick, and then we'll go to Frank.
You know, I can remember years ago when I served on a park and recreation committee and introduced the idea of beach soccer to the council, and they thought we were crazy. Well, if you look at it now and you look at how many people beach soccer brings to town when they have a tournament of 400 teams, and you put the multiplier in effect, you see how many people come during those time periods. And then not only they come during those time periods, they come back, and many of them became new visitors to the town of Ocean City. So it's progressive as well as something that solves an immediate problem. Had a conversation last year as we were talking about this with Terry Hazeltine, who is the sports director for the Maryland Tourism, Maryland Stadium Authority. And what I said to him was, I thought we should have, Ocean City should become the amateur sports capital of the state. And I truly believe that. I believe with our opportunities for sporting events on the beach and at the fields that we currently have, and at what hopefully we're going to have in the near future, and with the infrastructure we have, with all the hotels, with all of the restaurants, with all the amenities, if you look at where other people travel, this is the place to come. And it's a place to come all year round. So I really believe in tourism, sports tourism in particular. And I do believe that we need to hire an economic development director or a sales, however you want to call the position. We've been talking about it for the last year. I asked it to be placed on the agenda so we could start talking about it and do it. And hopefully we're going to have that job description to us sooner than later. You know, we're also going to have the expansion of the Ocean City Convention Center, which has kind of been forgotten during all this, completed in the early part of 2022. And that's also going to assist us with sports marketing and sporting events and volleyball events and other events like that. So we've got the infrastructure. The infrastructure is going to expand. Let's take advantage of it today. Thank you.
Frank, then John's on deck.
Okay, thank you. I firmly believe an economic development director is needed for this town. And I've agreed with this for the last year or so that it's been brought up. You have to hire a salesperson. That person's got to be on the road out there selling Ocean City constantly. You've got to give him or her a goal and the amount of new business they're going to bring. If they don't meet that goal, you move on to the next person, or you hire another person, leave them on probation and make sure they can meet the goal you set for them. And obviously part of this is sports tourism. They have to know the total product that they're selling. They've got to be able to compartmentalize each tournament, recognize the needs of the tournament accordingly, and make the pitch. These guys are going to bring in events, they'll bring in revenue, they'll bring in tax dollars and room and food, and we'll pass this on to our taxpayers. As far as sports tourism goes, this is definitely part of this guy's job or woman's job. They definitely encourage the town to rapidly move in this direction, create and hire for the position. We could become the hub of a multitude of tournaments. I was talking with the dad the other day who told me that his family spends 38 days a year on the road in hotels, eating in restaurants, going to tournaments. We need to be part of that market, that demographic. When I say a hub, remember, we could make use of fields within 45 minutes of Ocean City. We're not limited to like Northside Park, but we have fields in Worcester County and Wycomico County. We have school fields, college fields, private fields, public fields, and the guys have to take an inventory of these fields in this area, do a cost analysis for their use, and then work with the existing and potential fields and coming up with being able to put these tournaments together. No matter where they play, just remember, no matter where these people play, Ocean City will be the hub where they stay. We have the rooms, we have the restaurants, we have the beach. Those other areas don't have any of that. So aside from 50 or 60 rooms in Salisbury, we'll be the epicenter of anything we do down here on the shore. Thank you.
Thank you. John, I know you have some things on this topic. Well, then we'll go to Tony.
Well, I'm happy to hear people on board. Yeah, I think people are tired of hearing me talk about this. I've been on this for a long, long time. And yeah, this goes back really maybe almost 10 years ago when H2O was just annoying and it was clearly growing, but it didn't require, they didn't hate us then, and it didn't require police officers. And that was kind of the way, I thought that was the way out then, was to really go sell the fall and put the squeeze on with the inventory. I believe it in my heart. I think we're made for it. I think respectfully to the mayor, you know, it's not about the amateur sports capital of Maryland. You know, to me, it's the amateur sports capital of the country, of the United States, of the world. We're made for this, and it's made for us. It's like everything we've done to this point is made for this moment. And it's not really a new idea. It's a $20 billion a year industry. So there are benefits for being late, but we're clearly late and we're just kind of on the fringes of it. But people want to come here. And if, you know, we have to think gigantic. We have to think big. This is one market segment. Our growth, you know, people have speculated that our growth is capped by not having an airport. This is one travel market segment that does not fly or require airplanes. People these families throw their gear in the back of the SUV, and they will drive 10, 12, 13 hours to go to these tournaments. And we are in the middle of 60 million people within a 4 or 5 hour drive. And we have the amenities that, I mean, just look at these complexes around us that don't have anything. We have world-class boardwalk, beach, we're clean. We have a variety of accommodations. We have restaurants and attractions. We're made for this. We are made for this. And we talked about beach soccer. There's another beach event that's being proposed right now. So RFPs are flying around. Promoters want to come here. We just need to be in front of them. And it's not just sports. It could be music. It could be technology. It could be esports. Basically, we should really just call it participation or participant events. And these are the type of people. Right now, this is killing us. The trends are against us. Because of these tournaments, people are traveling. They're spending their vacations traveling on tournaments, and the tournaments aren't here. So these traditional family vacations aren't happening. We're losing customers because we're not in it. So we can turn that around, get the type of guests we want, and then they're introduced to the area because of the group or the event or tournament they play in. And then they see how great Ocean City is, and they spend their vacation. We start new family traditions, and they spend their family vacations here for generations. It is made for us. We just have to sell it. And you're right. We don't need to sell it. I wanted to hire a salesperson, 4 years ago, but certainly in our last strategic planning 2 years ago, and the group decided to wait until the sports study was done. We didn't need a sports study to hire a salesperson. We have enough to sell. We can work with the county. There's a partnership with the county, with the convention center. You get basketball tournaments. You can't just dribble a basketball on a concrete floor. So we need flooring. That flooring is expensive, but we can work with the county to partner with that to cut our expense. A ton of ideas. It's absolutely the right call. It cures everything we talked about tonight. It cures it all. That's the cure. We just have to do it.
All right. Thank you very much. Tony and then Nico.
Yeah, I support this position. With my background, what this position is called is the Ocean City Marketing VP, is what it's called. You know, and if we combine two positions to one, if we combine communications manager and the director of tourism to one person, then this person does not add another person or another body. I think this person, you know, leads all activities for us. I mean, it really establishes our brand, develops our goals, you know, goes after our tourism and of course sports, social media, digital, advertising, creative. We need to add the position. We need to add the position now. And sports tourism, I mean, everyone agrees. There's nothing controversial about it. I mean, it's as everyone has already said, it's family fun. And to me, it's not really a vacation. It's every weekend. The family members that I know, the parents travel for their kids to soccer, lacrosse tournaments every weekend. And like everyone said, we have the hotels, we have the restaurants, and I don't care how we develop this thing. You know, there's lots of ideas out there. I don't care if it's located a complex, you know, near 50, 90, and 113. I don't care if we develop 94th Street into a complex. I don't care if we improve Northside Park. I don't care if we do things on the beach with the beach soccer. We need to do it now. Thank you.
All right, Nico and then Daniel.
I want new tourism in Ocean City, and I think this is an idea that I would like to get. I would get behind. A salesperson for the city is something that could benefit everybody. Sports tourism, in particularly, I know everybody's already mentioned it, but it is something that is going to bring families into Ocean City and bring the type of atmosphere that we want. I think that this is something we can start immediately. One of the biggest events that we have in town is cheerleaders, and they just bring so much cheer to our town. They really do. And I think little leagues, soccer games, softball games, those are all great. I know there's a lot of talk about building a complex, but like I said, I think that this is something that we need to start now before we even have a complex. I'd like to, look at as many possible avenues as we can to building it, the economic impact of building it, and how we might fund that. One thing is the room occupancy tax. In 2012, it was capped at 2%. The 2%, so the gross total of the room occupancy tax was $12.5 million approximately. And in 2019, the room occupancy tax, the gross total was $16 million. So as you can see, there's a big difference between 2012 and 2019. I mean, we're only talking about 2% of that 5% tax that we're garnishing, but it's still a big increase, and that advertising dollars could be spent elsewhere to bring in this sports tourism, and I think fund this position that I know that we all want.
All right, thank you. Daniel, the last word on this topic?
Yes. Well, I support the decision. I believe that having a salesperson in the development and how to bring families here through various different ways of sports is great. As me, I'm a long-time 10-pin bowler. I've been doing it for 28 years. I was a traveler bowler when I was in the youth leagues. We would go to small towns like Cumberland and so forth. And these tournaments have 150, 250, 350 kids in it. And these are big things. And they go on for like 3 or 4 days. So I definitely think that having those type of things here is very important. I also believe that in order to hire somebody with that type of position, they got to have a product to sell. And if you don't, we need to clean up our act, a character. This person must have to go on national news, go to local news. They got to convince the people that we're trying to bring here that their lives are not in danger. Because if they feel like their lives are in danger, the promoters and sponsors aren't going to do anything. Because this is from last year, is a great point, is there was a officer in New York City down when the ball dropped, right before he said that he never expected to see this many people when he joined the force in 1970 because of how New York was in the 1970s. And it took many, many years, many different avenues to clean up New York and make it to what it was. So we got to take how they did that and do it here. How we convince people and the voters, not only that, the tourists, how do we convince them that our product is safe? We can't sell that after this year. We need to have a person that can answer those questions like this. They go on the news, national, local. They can convince the promoters and sponsors, because if one incident happens when these sports are in town, the parents are in town, the families and the sponsors, it's going to leave Ocean City in a bad way. We got to make sure we hit this right. The first pitch has got to be a home run, because if we don't, it's going to be a strikeout, and this could be a long-term bad deal. And we just got to make sure this person can sell the product no matter what questions are thrown at him or her. We all need to figure out how this can be a great thing for Ocean City. Families are number one, but their safety is always number one as well. Protecting what we need to bring in is most important. I support the idea, but we got to make sure that this individual knows what they're up against, because the question of how we're going to convince millions of people about coming here and sponsors and promoters to come here, we got to do it. We got to promote. We got to prove ourselves. And the only way we're going to do that is by cleaning up what happened this year. It might take a couple years, but I definitely support the idea of bringing that in. But also, I don't think adding taxes to it is going to do it either, because many people felt the pinch because of layoffs. Yes, many people got unemployment, but of course that doesn't, last forever. And jobs aren't going to come back as fast as it took years to get the unemployment rate down to where it was. So these families are going to, the tourists are going to pay for those taxes. Consumers always pay taxes. If you tax the businesses it's always the consumers and the tourists that pay those taxes, because they got to make money. And if we keep having new taxes and raising taxes, the families aren't going to come here because it's going to be too much. So I think we need to go back to the table with that as well. Thank you.
All right, everyone, we would like to take a short 2-minute break, and we'll come back and pose some questions from our citizens to you. So, all right, we'll pause the recording. So if we just take a 2-minute break and we'll meet back up. Okay. Thank you. All right, welcome back, everybody. We wanted to move into our citizen questions, and we did something a couple weeks ago with Berlin when we started running a little long, where we asked our candidates to simply answer yes, no. Of course, you can expand on it a little bit, but rather these are kind of quick hitting questions that we just wanted to give the citizens their opportunity to throw your way. So if you could just answer them yes, no. Again, explain yourself, but we're looking to keep it a little bit shorter. So I'm going to throw it over to Sean.
Okay, first citizen question deals with bikes on the boardwalk. It's been an interesting topic in recent weeks with the e-bikes, but this is about bicycles in general. Will you continue to allow bikes on the boardwalk till 2 p.m. or even consider extending the concrete section of the boardwalk to allow bikes at all times? This will give bicycle rentals on the boardwalk to increase revenue substantially and invite more people to use the boardwalk at all times of the morning, afternoon, and evening. We'll start with Tony, and Frank, you're on deck.
No, no. To your question, it's kind of funny that you start with the bike guy, I think we need to go back as soon as next spring starts. We need to go back to where we were with the bikes. 2 reasons: safety and the crowds. Thanks. Did I answer your question?
That's good. Thank you. Frank, you're next, and Daniel, you're on deck.
Thank you.
I tough time hearing the whole question, but number one, the cement, there's no way you can extend that north of where it is. That's just not going to happen due to the Corps of Engineers. And even though it would be great to have it go all the way to 27th Street from 4th, that's not going to happen to have a bike lane out there. As far as having bikes until 2 o'clock, my answer to that next year is when the tram starts operating again, and hopefully it will, when COVID dies down. There's no way to have bikes out there until 2 o'clock. Was there a third part of the question?
No, that's it. There, you got it. Yep. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, Daniel, you're up, and John, you're on deck.
Okay, can you ask the question again?
Sure.
Thank you.
Just to preface it, during the COVID summer, the mayor and council allowed bikes on the boardwalk till 2 p.m.
Okay.
And the question is, would you consider keeping that in place when COVID's behind us, hopefully next spring? And would you also consider extending the concrete section of the boardwalk to allow bikes up there at all times?
Yes. I believe that, as we saw last night, we have very big, lot of bike riders here. And I believe giving them a platform to go on there as well would be good. Yes, I agree with yes to everything.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. John, you're up, and Rick, you're on deck.
Yeah, it's kind of, would I consider it? Yeah, I mean, if that was on the agenda, I would certainly consider it. I think Tony and Frank both have made some good points on the challenges. It's crowded. We have a big tram there, and priorities keep people safe. I won't close the door on anything without discussing it, so I'd consider it, but there are challenges.
Thank you, John. Rick, you're up, and Nico, you're on deck.
Okay, Frank was right with due to the beach replenishment project and the seawall, we wouldn't be able to extend the concrete portion of the boardwalk into the beach replenishment area. That the Army Corps wouldn't allow that. And I wouldn't be in favor of going back to the 2 o'clock. I think it should be at the 11 o'clock unless we reevaluate the operating times of the tram, and the tram started later. If you move the trams till noon, let's take a look at that. Maybe that'll increase the bicycle operation by an hour, but the two just aren't compatible with the crowds on the boardwalk. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Nico, you're up, and Peter, you're on deck.
The more time, the more hours available in the day that the bikes can be on there riding, I know that makes me happy. I know it makes a lot of residents happy. As far as extending the concrete section, I don't know that that's practical, like others have mentioned. And earlier you did mention the e-bikes last night. That was a topic of discussion, and I don't really feel that it was necessarily fair to all of the residents who are elderly, just flat out banning the e-bikes. I feel like that there's a lot of people that use them who have disabilities, and I know I'd like to see e-bikes on the boardwalk since we haven't had any issues with them in the past. And even still, we could have a situation where residents who have a disability could bring that to the council's attention and get a permit to ride their e-bikes on the boardwalk, even if it's not available for everybody.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to ride my bike all day on the boardwalk too, but as long as the tram, the congestion is there, unless some other consideration comes up that I'm not privy to, we can't have bikes and trams coexisting at the same time. So no, we can't extend the time unless something else gives.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll go on to our next question from our citizen. Do you support a boardwalk curfew in June? We'll go with Peter and then Nico.
I struggle with the boardwalk curfew, but generally, no, I wouldn't support a curfew. I think that it should be implemented in times of emergencies, but as a general policy, I don't like restricting public access to any town roadways. And I think there's alternative ways to create the closure of the boardwalk without necessarily having a curfew.
All right. Nico and then Frank's on deck.
Well, I also struggle with allowing curfew on the boardwalk. I feel that it'll turn a lot of families off to coming to Ocean City. If they were to hear that there's a curfew on the boardwalk, it might upset some of them and make them feel like Ocean City isn't the safe town that it is.
Thank you. Frank and then John.
Okay. A curfew on the boardwalk is not practical. It just won't work. The police department, the chief said he wasn't in favor of it. It's going to take people from the boardwalk, drive them off the boardwalk into the alleys, into the neighborhoods. And on the boardwalk, at least they have a much better shot of keeping them under control. Once they get back in the alleys and the neighborhoods, that advantage disappears. Thank you.
Okay. John and then Daniel.
Good question. In this June, I wanted a curfew for one Saturday night, and the chief, advised against it for some of the reasons Frank just mentioned. So I won't repeat them, but so no, I changed my perspective on that. But I do support during periods where we know we're going to have problems. As I said earlier, I support closing the boardwalk so that for the safety of, I guess, the good guys, right? Let's get our innocent people out of harm's way. Let's get our staff who works in those businesses out of there safely. And then we actually want to keep the bad element on the boardwalk where there's concentrated. It's easier to keep eyes on them, and we have cameras everywhere. So let's just get the innocent people out of the way.
Daniel and then Rick.
Well, and I'm opposed to it as well. I don't think having a curfew is good. One of the reasons is it's going to hurt, as many mentioned, tourism. It's going to chase families off and out. The same thing we're trying to bring families in with the sports. If we kick them out, what I mean? And then the businesses already went through tough enough time with health inspectors and governor's orders and everything else this year. And we don't need to give them more penalizations, because without the businesses, that whole sales position goes up in flames. We got to have the businesses. I do agree that keeping the public safe is always good, but also taking away from the businesses is also good either. We need to make sure that we can strategically plan this better. And, you know, I'm completely opposed to having a curfew, because, you know, we're all adults and many of the families are adults, and that's just not going to do good, because it's going to hurt everyone involved, all the way from the voters to tourists, all the way up to the Ocean City government and the town. Thank you.
Right. Rick and then Tony have the last word.
Okay, no, I don't support implementing a curfew. I think everybody's touched on the public safety challenges that would create. But this past summer, many of the businesses did close early. And I know that there's been discussion on some of their boards and the Boardwalk committee that they would self-curfew. And if business was slow and they anticipated problems, maybe they would take it upon themselves to choose an hour to close and close a little early. And I would certainly support their decisions with regard to how they operate their business.
Thank you. And we'll go to Tony.
Well, I've already answered it. My answer is yes. I'd like to see a test of a curfew after 11 o'clock on the boardwalk. And I don't think it will affect families testing it after 11 o'clock. I'd also like to possibly see maybe a test of a curfew in 4 days in September. Thank you.
Is that it? Okay. Next citizen question. Would you consider voting to bring back traditional recycling? We'll start with Daniel, and Frank, you're on deck.
Yes, this is actually a great topic. I really believe that we need to better utilize our recycling resources. Also, maybe even create programs where they take children and schools and have a program where they learn about the different ways and levels, how it goes from you know, the trash all the way, it could be up to creating something that we use every day. So creating programs for that, I think, is a great thing. And recycling is a really big deal. I believe in eco-friendly products. I believe in, you know, that's, you know, the biggest thing that we need is, you know, making sure we keep our world and our beach clean for, you know, for the future. I definitely believe that recycling needs to be done.
Thank you. Frank, you're up, and Nico, you're on deck.
Hi there. Thank you. Question, could you repeat the question?
Sure. Would you vote for bringing back traditional recycling?
Thank you. I just wanted to make that straight. No, I would not vote to bring back traditional recycling. The recycling effort that Ocean City has in place now is saving us $1.5 million a year. We are sending our waste to Pennsylvania, where it's burned to create energy. Traditional recycling, we were getting, I think, maybe 20 or 30% recycled. Here we're getting 80 to 90% of our things recycled. And if you want to read about this, you can go to oceancitymaryland.gov, and there's a area on that website that will explain our recycling project. Thank you.
Thank you. Nico, you're up. Tony, you're on deck.
So I like the current recycling program that we have. I feel like it forces residents and visitors to do the right thing because there's only one bin, and when they put everything in there and it goes to be recycled, it's really the most efficient way. We're not having two trucks come by, pick up the trash and the recycle on separate days. And like Frank said, it also is it's being burned and creating electricity. So I like the current recycling program.
Thank you. Tony, you're up. Rick, you're on deck.
Thank you. As you know, I'm the chairman of the Green Team. And my answer is absolutely not. I don't support recycling. There really is no such thing as recycling anymore. It's really just kind of a feel-good thing. It's an illusion. Since China stopped taking our plastics, we don't know what to do with it. Recycling places don't know what to do with it, so they're putting it in landfills. They're burning it. It's not happened. So you put it in the bin, you think it's recycled, but around the United States, it's not happening at all. What we do is very efficient in terms of energy for families. I think what we do is very good. I'll leave you with this. Source reduction is the answer. Source reduction is proactive. Recycling is reactive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rick, you're up, and Peter, you're on deck.
Thank you. No, I would not support bringing back traditional recycling. I think that what we do today works. It saves the town quite a bit of money, and that's not just we saves us yearly, but we also don't have all the vehicles and the transport vehicles to haul the trash to other places. I think what we do now works. All that trash is burned to create energy that saves, the dependency on other fossil fuels. So I think it works. We do support source reduction. I think that's really the wave of the future. That's what we all have to consider, and eliminating some of those products that continue to stay in our landfills forever. I know some of those things have been discussed and have been delayed on implementation, but I think that's the wave of the future. And, the savings that we have, from the way we recycle helps us support other programs, like picking up white goods, like having two community pickups a year to pick up hazardous materials and anything that our residents put out on a curbside. We're able to do a lot of other things, including supporting the efforts of the Coastal Bays Committee. So I think what we do now works for the town of Ocean City.
Thank you. Peter, you're up. John, you're on deck.
No, I don't think we should bring back traditional recycling in the way the town did it in the past. I do think that, however, we should look at some private efforts that are going on right now to figure out a phased approach to bring in certain areas of recycling back in a creative and incremental way.
Thank you. John?
Yep, we'll make it unanimous. No, and not traditional recycling for all the reasons mentioned are all accurate. We do recycle, though. I mean, people don't think we recycle. We recycle, and traditional recycling nationwide is only, I don't know what the updated percentage. It's a very low percentage of materials that gets recycled anyway. In the tourism market, it's even lower. And there are set of meetings in Garvey over at the Hobbit with composting and making it easier for private businesses to follow that model. I think we should support that. And frankly, we're ahead of the curve. We renewed our contract with our provider, and more municipalities now are, because of some of the reasons Tony mentioned, more and more people are using the program we use, and it's getting much more competitive. So we're in good shape, and we certainly support the private efforts.
Great. And our next question is probably a topic that has merited the most column inches in our newspaper's history, wind turbines. So we would like are you for wind turbines off Ocean City's coast as proposed? We'll start with John and then move to Peter.
Do I support them as proposed by who?
Okay, they didn't specify, but we'll just go with, because I think Orsted is further along. So let's go with that project. So do you support the wind turbines?
Well, personally, I think offshore wind is the most inefficient form of energy ever created in the history of mankind. So personally, I think it's whoever invented creating gigantic steel structures the size of the Eiffel Tower or bigger, to put them in the middle of the ocean to service them. When we have things are getting smaller and these turbines are getting bigger, it just doesn't make sense. So I think we can, personally, I think that's politics. I think there are other forms of green energy to use with solar and all of our buildings that we have that we could, if we're going to use tax credits, let's provide the tax credits for our local business. But it needs to be out of sight. It needs to be out of sight. And, it's the will of the council. I would support that. Personally, I do not think, I don't want to see them. Can't affect tourism at all or property values. So yes and no.
All right, Peter, and then we'll go to Rick.
Look, the town's already taken a position on this matter. The town supports clean energy, but will always oppose the size and location of turbines as long as they're within view of the shoreline. I also think it's important to recognize the town's role in this matter is persuasive. So the ultimate decision is up to the state and federal authorities. So I see no reason to change the town's current position, and I would encourage residents to write their federal representatives. But one extra note is that the town actually already does invest in green energy with the solar field. So there's other ways to do this as well.
Okay, Rick and then Frank.
Well, I think my position is pretty well known and been consistent ever since, I was first, made aware of what was being proposed off our shoreline, and what's being proposed now, even with the Orsted project at a 12 megawatt turbine. They would be the largest structures in the state of Maryland, the tallest structures if they were placed on land. And they will have an impact on our shoreline. And the US wind project, as proposed, would have a definite impact on our shoreline. We would not have the same sunrise or pristine view we have today, and future generations would never see or enjoy what we enjoy today. So I'm absolutely against it. If we can move them out so we don't see them, so they don't disrupt us, and I'm okay with that. But I also have to agree with John. I don't think it's an efficient source of energy.
Okay, Frank, do you support wind turbines off Ocean City's coast as proposed? Oh, we're muted.
Okay, I definitely do not support wind turbines off the coast of Ocean City. I'm with John also. There are better green alternatives out there, but for political reasons, the Public Service Commission does not agree with this, and they've given them the okay to proceed. The best we can hope for is to push these wind turbines offshore. These monstrosities will be 853 feet high. Each blade will be as big as a football field, and they'll definitely be visible from 15 or 17 miles out. The best we can hope for is to get them 27 miles offshore. It isn't that big a deal for Orsted to pay $1 million a mile for the cable to move them 10 more miles out. That's chump change for these guys, and they can definitely do it. It's been done off the coast of Virginia, and it can be done off the coast of Ocean City. Also, the life expectancy is 20 years, maybe less in a saltwater environment. Who's going to clean up these guys after they fail? That's about all I've got to say on that. Thank you.
All right. Daniel, it's your turn, and then Tony.
Well, I'm yes and no, because back in the beginning of the year, there was at the convention center a big meeting with business owners, community, and all the companies that want to do this project. And I was there, and I talked to quite a few people, and some were business owners, and some were local voters in the community. And for me, is that I think there's other ways of creating energy. I think looking at some of Tesla's work is a great source. Ground energy is another thing that's never been really looked at. That could definitely help. But the technology for the wind turbines are just, the turbines have been used for 30 some years. I think we're way behind the curve. We need to figure out other sources. And like Ocean City is always ahead of the curve in other fields, we need to make this another ahead of the curve project as well. So I'm yes and no for it, but if I had to really go for it, I'd say no, because as many have said, the view that we have can never be bought. Nobody can buy that view. The sunrise, the sundown, everything that's what people come here for. And I think taking that away would be bad for business and for the town.
Tony and then Nico on this one.
Well, I'm never yes and no. My answer is yes. I certainly support wind farms. I just don't want to see them. I absolutely don't want to see them. At 33 miles, they are invisible. Our engineer, Terry McGeehan, went to the top of the largest building in Ocean City, which is Century 1, and determined that from the top of that building, you can't see them at 33 miles. I attended a few meetings in Annapolis to talk about this. And in one of those meetings, BOEM was there. BOEM's the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. They're the ones kind of controlling the permit and the ops permit for this whole thing. And at that meeting, they said that there was leasable space available at 33 miles off the coast of Ocean City. And it's east of the shipping lane. It's east of the shipping lane. So that is where it needs to be. That's where Virginia Beach put theirs, east of the shipping lane. It needs to be out of sight. It's a win-win. Thanks.
Right, Miko? I need you to unmute.
The town has spoken on this topic, and they've decided that they don't really want the wind turbines. And if we do have to have them, like everyone else said, we don't want to see them. We want them to be far enough away that they aren't seen. But alternatively, I mean, it's a mandate that came down from Annapolis, and we weren't really considered in this issue as much as I would like. And I think there's a lot of negatives when it comes to wind, and I would like to see other avenues of green energy, which is something that I'm passionate about.
Okay, it took a little while to get around to a COVID question, but the next citizen question is, will you wear a mask at City Hall and public appearances when social distancing is not possible? And we'll start with Frank, and Daniel, you're on deck.
Okay.
Muted, Frank.
The short answer is yes. I mean, there's no question about that. Masks work.
Okay, very good. Daniel, you're up next. John, you're on deck.
I believe that masks should be personal choice. There's too much, there's really mixed evidence on if they work or they do not work. Clearly, on the back of these boxes of the mask, it says it does not stop. And it was proven in going back all the way 1981 that these masks do not do anything. It was a study done, and obviously that there needs to be more evidence of better protection if we're going to be doing this. I really think that masks are a personal choice. Government should not have a play in what people. This is we the people, not we the government. The government needs to step out of it and let us make a decision on what we want to do with our lives. But there's just too much. This is too much. This virus has been too political, and it's been used that way. And a lot of people feel that there's more to this than what it seems. I believe that it's a personal choice, but also that everyone has a choice. And I don't think that forcing everyone is going to do anything. And a personal choice. And this is what America is: personal choice. And we have freedom. I don't think it's freedom. I think it's just another thing that we need to get by. And I don't think that's it's a personal choice, not a government choice. Thank you.
Okay, John, you're up. Nico, you're on deck.
I'm going to spend my time saying I made a mistake about wind turbines. The tallest, I thought it was short, what I said. The tallest wind turbine is the size as tall as the Empire State Building, not the Eiffel Tower. So, I mean, that's a big difference. Anyway, as far as masks, yeah, I'll wear them for as long as governor says to wear them. I mean, he's the boss. So, but for the public good, so we can meet and be safe, yes.
Okay, John. Nico, you're up. Tony, you're on deck.
I have no problem wearing a mask when social distancing isn't possible, and yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that. It is a personal choice when social distancing is possible, but it's a common courtesy to do so when you're in a closed environment.
Okay, Tony, you're up. Peter, you're on deck.
My answer is yes, absolutely. I feel that masks save lives. We'll wear them in all meetings. I even wore it while I was presenting last night. A lot of people took them off while they were speaking. I wore it while I was talking. I wear it at all social gatherings. We also wore it at both bike rides, both the mayor's bike ride and the Semper Fi bike ride. We wore masks. So just wear face masks and social distance. Thanks.
Okay. Peter, you're up. Rick, finish with you.
We're under the governor's order right now. So whether or not I want to wear it or not, my opinion is unfortunately subordinate to that of the governor's. So we'll continue wearing masks. And frankly, I want to do whatever we can do to keep public meetings in person. So I'll be wearing masks.
Perfect. Okay, Rick.
Yes, right now I think it's the right thing to do, and I want to keep us moving forward.
Okay.
Okay, everybody. I wanted to, we did receive some questions today from our citizens that we told you we wanted to keep it around 2 hours, but we'd encourage our citizens, if we did not get to your questions, to please reach out to the candidates yourselves. I'm sure they're happy to answer any questions. Many questions we covered in our topics, but we'd like to wrap up this evening and allow you all the opportunity to get your final words in, and we're going to return to the ballot order. So that would be Rick up first, and then Peter.
Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Sean, and thank you for the opportunity tonight. Thank you to everybody that's watching this. You know, we faced a lot of challenging times together, and I remain committed to the issues that we face today and tomorrow in Ocean City. And when I look back at this evening, I think the questions you asked tonight are going to be the issues that we're going to be discussing over the next year and probably beyond. So I want to thank you for presenting us with relevant questions and giving us the opportunity to answer them. From my position, I realize that I'm running unopposed in this election, but I'm asking your support. Being the mayor is an important position, and I remain committed to serving you and the town of Ocean City. Times and problems and situations and people change, but experienced leadership remains vital. Thank you, and again, I ask you for your support.
Thank you. Was it Peter and then Tony?
Very good. Simply put, really, if you want someone on the council that's living and breathing this town every day, will always be prepared to make the best decision for the residents and the business owners, and will consistently support a position that reinforces the city as a safe place to live, then I'm your guy.
Thank you. Tony, and then Nico's on deck.
Great, thank you. So, no residential property tax increases. I have a proven record of 6 years of votes to support that. I have many revenue generating ideas. I gave about 10 at the last, to include room tax, which I think we really need to do, the 0.5%. I also have some other list of ideas of cost cutting and things that I plan to go over. I have a strong strategic financial plan focus, and my vision is the cleanest, safest family beach in the world. Thank you very much.
All right, Nico, and then John.
Thank you for having me here at the town hall, and I appreciate it. Together, I know that we can make this community the best family resort town that we possibly can be, and that's something that I think we can achieve through transparency. So if that's something that you want to see in your town, is transparency and a family resort town like it used to be, and like I know that it can be, then I hope to count on your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico. John, and then Daniel.
Thanks again, Steve and Sean. Appreciate the opportunity. And just to the people of Ocean City, I thank you for electing me 4 years ago. And, you know, I had the most votes ever back then, and that's from you. And I think I'm better than I was then. I'm still different. I'm still not a government guy. You know, it's just not about property taxes. It's taxes and fees. That's just the easy way. I mean, we've raised everything. Every tax and fee we could possibly raise, we basically have. And we spent a lot of bullets on that, and we really need to focus, as we discussed tonight. It seems to be pretty unanimous. We need to focus on making money by providing a valuable service for our customers, to our visitors. Ocean City is great. That's why we live here. We're all residents here. We love it here. We have challenges, and those challenges can spread. We didn't act, you know, the decisions we make today don't affect just today. They affect 5, 10, 20 years from now. So, you know, we need bold action. We need creative thinking, and we need to take it seriously with some passion and some fire, frankly. And I know my style rubs people the wrong way, but I think we need it on the council. That's why I'm throwing my hat back in there, and I appreciate your vote. If you're looking for somebody who's going to take ideas and go and run and do, then vote John Gehrig on November 3rd.
Very much. Daniel and then Frank.
Yes. Thank you for all the questions. The community, the dispatch, thank you for having this event. As I said before, I will continue to the truth, to work for all you without compromise, without fear, without terms, because that's what the Ocean City community and tourists deserve. Someone who puts them first, who won't quit until the job is finished, which is why at this time, win or lose, this will still be the community I will fight for. Bless this town we call Ocean City, Maryland. I would like for the community to remember these two things. Loyalty is a consequence of leadership, and leadership is a touchstone of competence. Thank you.
Thank you. And Frank. Oh, we're muted, Frank. There we go.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here tonight and talk with you and your subscribers, viewers. I feel that I have the government experience, the life experience, to be able to hit the ground running and serve the people of Ocean City from day one. You've heard my views over the course of the evening, and I hope you'll go down to the bottom of the ballot and vote for me on November 3rd. Thank you.
Vote for Dan Hagan, too, 2020.
All right. Thank you all very, very much. Appreciate the opportunity to get together with you and talk the issues. Like I mentioned, we're going to transfer this video into online version, and it'll be available later tonight. Again, thank you all. I'm going to stop the recording now and wish you all a good night. Thank you.
Vote for Dan.
Thank